I'm often asked why the title of my book is The 85% Solution, not The 100% Solution. Well, in reality, what makes up the culture of an organization is individuals and their individual behavior. That starts, of course, in mindset. And what we've come to understand over the many years that I've been doing the accountability assessment is if you can assess a mindset at 85%, with 15% happening outside of an individual, circumstances and things they can't control, they'll still get to their definition of success, especially if they've defined it clearly. But more than that, you get an organizational culture that has these behaviors that I know you want in your organization all day, every day. Let's go back to what personal accountability is and where it starts. It's ownership for results, good or bad. No excuse, no blame, no fault. What does that produce? A culture people want to be in. Lots of vibrance and thriving. And people are focused on results, not stories and reasons. But more than that, you can identify the behaviors that start you on the path of how accountable is our culture. I'm going to name the behaviors that we most frequently see 85% of the time or more when you have an accountable culture. As we go through each of these items, I invite you to rate how you are doing individually or collectively in your small work group. You can even do this in a leadership team. Very powerful. So 1, poor, not so good at this. 5, excellent. You'll see it most of the time. Ready? First, we talk to, not about others. Or, I talk to, not about others. 1, not so good at that. A lot of gossiping. 5, excellent. We make sure that people take it to the person they're having the problem with, or we bring the person in and say, hey, you need to hear this. They're talking about you. Second, no meeting after the meeting. You know where those happen. Parking lot, stairwell, somebody's office, where we start to disagree with what took place in the meeting and really voice our opinion. Didn't say it in the meeting. In an accountable culture, no meeting after the meeting. Starts with me individually. I used to allow this. I need to stop. Even getting up and walking away when it's not appropriate. Allowing people to be how they're being, but you're not going to be a part of it. Third is clear agreements. We've really gotten good at making our expectations clear. We don't get defensive when someone says, hey, this is a good time to put things in writing and make a clear agreement. It's not an environment of distrust and using accountability like a bat. It's about getting clear and stepping up to full ownership. 1, not so good at that. 5, we're really good at that. We may not use that specific tool, but we do it. 4 is that you always know a clear goal. Goal setting is different than having a definition of success, which you see as number 5. Clear goals are that mark. We will go live with this new IT implementation by September 24th. So there are places where in our performance evaluations we have set goals. They're quantitative, even SMART goals. Very important to have those outlined, but go a little further in the definition of success, which is item number 5 on these behaviors. And that is that I've gone to page 90 in the 85% solution, and I've really sat down and said, this is a living, breathing document for me or for the group. How many times has a group set out to do something? And if I stopped them at month 3 or so and said, okay, well, what is success for this project, this go live with IT implementation? Well, people will have the same goal, go live September 24, but then they realize, well, maybe we didn't have the same definition of success. I thought it was that we just finish and move on. Someone else thinks the definition of success is everyone adopts it and there's no workaround. Very important. We all work hard. Stop and get clear on what the definition of success is. 1, boy, we don't do that very often, and I can think of some places I got to go back and do that. Or 5, always make sure it's clear to everyone. 6, clear role. Clarity of role seems sort of obvious, but it's not necessarily your job description. I don't know how many of you have noticed that when you get into work and they hand you the job description, about a day later, it's different. and other duties as assigned, especially if you're in a teamwork environment where roles have to be flexible and fluid. I'm responsible always to be clear about my role. Here's what's expected of me. Here's what you are counting on that I take charge of and be accountable for. And I'm very clear in number 7 about my authority connected with that. Sometimes we have a clear role, but then we fail to be very clear about what our authority is. So rate yourself. Is my role clear? Do I keep it up to date? Do I get feedback on it? And 7, do I understand my level of authority? Lots of times people say, I haven't been clear about what my authority is. Why haven't you asked? I don't want to know. I like the flexibility of just doing whatever. 8, a clear decision-making process. Oftentimes when you're in a room and you're giving input or we're meeting on something, people aren't very sure about what their role is in the decision-making process. Am I here for input? Am I here to make the decision? Am I here because an executive is going to inform us of what decision's been made? Are we going to do a fake input meeting where someone says, well, we haven't really decided, but we'd like to hear what you think, and you're thinking, yeah, right. They've made this decision, and they're actually just asking us for a reaction to the decision that's already been made. The clear decision-making process always tells us right where we are and how best to be involved. So, how do you do with that? 1, not so good. 5, great. Number 9, no rescue, fix, and save. We hold people accountable. We don't take work that is subpar and say, we'll take care of it and fix it for you because we want the deadline more than we want you to be developed. We really stay out of rescue, fixing, and saving, and we stay in developing people. Number 10, hold self and other people accountable. Yeah, well, let's see. How do I do with that? I don't make excuses or blame others when something goes wrong at work, or yeah, I do. And as a matter of fact, this culture tolerates it. The more I don't hold myself accountable, the harder it is to hold other people accountable because they'll hold the mirror up right away and say, how can you do this with credibility when you don't even show up on time? You don't get your reports done on time. Starts with self. How you doing with that? 1, not so good. 5, I'm on top of it. And number 11 is being conflict competent. What does that mean? You've read the books about handling conflict, understanding conflict, mediating conflict, and you're practicing your skills. So you're comfortable. Truth is, accountability sometimes is a conflicting environment. I need to hold you accountable. I know I was clear. Let's take a look at the clear agreement we've done and let's talk through it. If I'm afraid of conflict, I'll avoid it. And then I become a very unclear communicator. I don't want to be an unclear communicator because I'm afraid of conflict. I want to be clear and then follow through. So become conflict confident. Study it, practice it, make it something that is mutually respecting and very effective. And finally, what is said gets done. It's very important that customers rely internally and externally on people saying and doing and having that match up more often than not. When you have an accountable culture, what you'll notice is most of these items, a group, a team, or a highly desirable employee has 5 in each of these areas. Where it's not 5, get to work.